Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
Pretty picture. There we go. Hi. Bradshaw with you here on a absolutely frigid Tuesday afternoon. The email address, radiobradshaw@gmail.com if you want to take part that way. Follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw. And I guess again, all are welcome. Some are capable. Some, Frank, are insufferable. 244-0077, though I don't recommend it. As much as a fan I am, I wish I had the hang up button. You know, for years and years and years in radio, man, you miss it the other hours of the day. I could just make this conversation stop anytime. Never been a huge phone call fan. I don't know. It's because I don't seek out or particularly enjoy like the whole, hanatized, idiot resident of Glenbeckistan phenomenon. Like, I don't want someone to just call and like, here's everything that you've said, and I love it. I don't know. It's never given me my jollies. But then again, I've never been one of those radio people like, I'm on the radio. I've worked with plenty of those people who liked being the guy on the radio. And I've always gone out of my way to like, I don't want people to know who I just want to go to the store, I don't want, hey, man. And I was lucky enough that most conservatives, especially the really, really loud ones, lack the, testicular fortitude to like, even if they recognize me, like, you're wrong and I hate you. Go away. Was it a balmy 12 degrees outside, and I had to get gas. This is, maybe New Jersey and Oregon, 2 states where they don't allow you to pump your own gas or onto something. Especially now that you can't just, like, go put in your debit card and get gas. You have to, like, run the myriad of questions. Like, do you want a receipt? No. Would you like a car wash? Probably not. Do you have stairs in your house? Would you like to hear about our special stay? Would you like to refinance your mortgage? It takes 47 button presses to get gas. I just want to put... Here's the question you know. Do I want to put fuel in my car? And when I pull the little hose out, it's cold and time is a-wasting. I am a mammal. I am warm-blooded, and I'm not down with this cold weather. Let me get back into my car and go. Neither here nor there. All right, so coming up, piece from the Iowa Republican that had me scratching my head. Yes, I delve into the right-wing blogosphere to know what they're, we use this term loosely, thinking. In this case, dude, I think is a generally good guy. I don't know if he's just off base or if this is a symptom of a bigger problem with the GOP. First, though, I'm not sure, how do we segue? The bullets in flight are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. A well-regulated militia has gone on a bit of a shooting spree at Lone Star College in the Houston suburbs. Authorities right now say they're not sure how many people have been shot or the extent of their injuries. Apparently, there have been at least a couple people removed with multiple gunshot wounds. Deputy constables say they have at least one person detained, and they're not saying if that's the shooter. Other reports say there is a 6'2" man in an Atlanta Falcons cap on the loose in the area. It was nice of him to at least wait till, a few days after Gun Appreciation Day, in which 32 people were shot and killed. To get on with this. But another day, another mass shooting. And at this point, now that we're paying attention, you notice these are kind of weekly events now. And these are just the big ones that actually make the national news. There was the Albuquerque teenager who shot up his family. We had the occasional all-family snuffed out, gun accidents and the like. This is something, again, that is been an ongoing issue, but is now finally becoming a priority. And issues like this deserve, I want to say, our respect enough to actually have a discussion. But unfortunately, we're not going to. We can't. One side of our two-party political system is completely incapable. It's one thing to have, and we highlight and we point out and we maybe mock a little the Alex Joneses or the Glenn Becks or, just your average member of the 101st Chairborne dutifully typing away about Second Amendment rights and Second Amendment remedies. This comes from Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell. Dear Patriot, this is a fundraising pitch. You and I are literally surrounded. The gun grabbers in the Senate are about to launch an all-out assault on the Second Amendment, on your rights, on your freedom. Just the other night, President Obama urged them to act and went one step further, spelling out the 23 different executive orders he will take to get your guns. Now, this sounds ominous. 23 executive orders to take guns? You know who else took guns? That's right, Lee Harvey Oswald. He took one up to the Texas Book Depository. Well, the rest was history. Or it was Spock, depending on which version of history you believe. And I say this, I let Frank on, I let him talk to a degree, because he really isn't that far out there from the Republican base. And yesterday was going on and on about, tyranny and executive overreach and the president, violating the Second Amendment. Like, here are the 23 executive orders. You'll notice. You hear Republicans talk, these executive orders, it's tyranny. And this was the question I asked Frank, and of course he didn't have an answer to it because no one on the right has an answer to it, and they haven't been told what the answer to it is. And the question is, what of those 23 executive orders are tyranny? Let's run down them very quickly. Issue a presidential memorandum to require federal agencies to make relevant data available to the federal background check system. This is good. If someone is ineligible to buy a gun, it's probably best that information is findable in the background search database. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, would you? And if there are barriers keeping that information out, that's probably a bad thing, wouldn't you agree? Would Mitch McConnell and his band of patriots agree with that? Address unnecessary legal barriers, particularly relating to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA regulations, that may prevent states from making information available to the background check system. Again, it's not deeming anything, it's not mandating anything, it's looking at unnecessary legal barriers. Are we being overprotective with HIPAA? Improve incentives for states to share information with background check system. Direct the Attorney General to review categories of individuals prohibited from having guns to make sure they're not slipping through the cracks. Tyranny, fascism, Kenyan anti-colonialism. Telling the Attorney General to make sure that people who can't buy guns can't buy guns. That's right out of Hitler's playbook right there. Propose rulemaking to give law enforcement the ability to run a full background check on an individual before returning a seized gun. Let's say upgrade 2Ds for double the pimping power. Reports his gun stolen. Before you hand back his arsenal of freedom, just make sure that he can have an arsenal of freedom. Publish a letter from ATF to federally licensed gun dealers providing guidance on how to run background checks for private sellers. Launch a national safe and responsible gun ownership campaign. The tyranny. Review safety standards for gun locks and gun safes, and that's done through the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Something's crap and doesn't work. I don't think you're violating the Second Amendment by pointing that out. Issue a presidential memorandum to require federal law enforcement to trace guns recovered in criminal investigations. Someone have a problem with that? Does that sound like tyranny? Release a Department of Justice report analyzing information on lost and stolen guns and make it widely available to law enforcement. Information? Research? We can't have that. That's tyranny. Nominate an ATF director. I know, really out of bounds for a president to do there. Provide law enforcement, first responders, and school officials with proper training for active shooter situations. We learned this with the latest mall shooting. I don't know if it was a general growth property or not, but only after the fact I don't know if it was mall security or mall ownership, but basically Paul Blart let it be known that we weren't even aware of this, but pretty much every major mall in this country, not only as recently drawn up, if they didn't have one, a response plan, but they are also conducting drills on what to do in case of an active shooter. My guess is that, after hours, security at Jordan Creek, Valley West, Merle Hay, if anyone was in Southridge Mall, they would probably run one there too on what to do with these situations. If we can make it easier and provide better training, that sounds like a good thing to do. Maximize enforcement efforts to prevent gun violence and prosecute gun crime. Does that sound like tyranny? No, we should go light on gun crime. Now, this next one is a big one because it is something the NRA and the Republicans have fought for 20 years now. Issue a presidential memorandum directing the Centers for Disease Control to research the causes and prevention of gun violence. And this goes back, again, 20 years to a study done that showed a gun in the home was, 43 times more likely to be used, again, in a suicide in the home, in an accidental shooting, or blowing away a kid who was sneaking in late after curfew, occasionally in Texas, shooting someone trick-or-treating on the wrong day, than it would ever be used to fight off the proverbial bad guy. That set off a you-know-what storm at the NRA. And probably, more to the point, gun manufacturers. If Consumer Reports that, this crib was 43 times more likely to kill your child than, allow them a good night's sleep, would you buy that? A blender was 43 times more likely to poison you than make you a fine daiquiri. It would hurt gun sales. And at the end of the day, the NRA is not about gun rights. It's not about gun owners or gun enthusiasts. It's about gun manufacturers and gun sellers. And when you trace, things the NRA gets really excited about and things the NRA doesn't care about, it really lines up with that hypothesis. They are about gun manufacturers. They are about the gun industry. Like, forget, they're not so much concerned about taking away gun rights. They're very concerned about making guns less appealing to the average American. And they're fighting a losing battle on that one, even as the number of guns in this country increases, over 300 million. The percentage of households that have a gun has been dropping. So ponder that. There are fewer gun people in this country, and they're owning more and more guns. So our friends on the right have made and to be fair, some of the yellow dogs and NRA panderers on the left, too, have gone out of their way to let it be known, the CDC, that research, studying gun violence, analysis of gun violence in this country will not be tolerated, and your budget is at risk. In the case of the study that showed it was 43 times more likely to be used accidentally than for the intended purpose. I think that study cost about $150,000 to do, and that exact amount was taken out of the CDC's budget the next year at Congress's appropriations. Not exactly a subtle message. So that's changing. Direct the Attorney General to issue a report of the availability and most effective use of new gun safety technologies. Clarify that the Affordable Care Act, and this one gets lied about a lot on the right. Clarify the Affordable Care Act does not prohibit doctors from asking their patients about guns in homes. Now, for whatever reason, in the minds of the Hanatized, that turns into a mandate. They have to ask you about guns. When in fact it says nothing. It just says they're not banned from doing that. Release a letter to healthcare providers clarifying that no federal law prohibits them from reporting threats of violence to law enforcement authorities. And I thought this was pretty well known that, a doctor, a therapist, psychiatrist will report but if they believe an imminent threat of harm or violence, up to and including yourself. Provide incentives for schools to hire school resource officers. That's, in fact, what the NRA asked for, right? Armed guards in schools. Develop model emergency plans for schools, houses of worship, and institutions of higher education. Talked about this last week. Most schools have disaster plans that are weather-related or fire-related. And it's kind of a one-size-fits-all plan. And there was talk, and I think it's valid, that most schools' emergency plans, and this has actually happened in a couple of places, is to, one, get all the students out of the building when you can, and then congregate them all in one place. More often than not, it's a football field. Most high schools and even middle schools have them. They're a large place that can accommodate a lot of people. And critics have brought up, and I think rightly, that if I was looking to actually kill a bunch of people, that'd be a very good place to do it. And might we be setting up some sort of killing field? That's our plan. Release a letter to state health officials clarifying the scope of mental health services that Medicaid plans must cover. Finalize regulations clarifying essential health benefits and parity requirements within the Affordable Care Act exchanges. And that is mental health parity. Gone are the days when a health insurance plan, right? You get your benefit book and say, you're entitled to 3, mental health visits per year. When it would be unthinkable to say, you can only go to your gynecologist twice a year. You can only see a general practitioner 2 times a year. This was a cost-saving move from the insurance agency or from the insurance companies. We don't have to cover it, so we're not going to. So mental health parity just simply means treating mental disorders the same as a physical disorder. And launch a national dialogue led by Secretary Sebelius and Duncan on mental health. There you go. Those are the 23 herbs, spices, and executive orders that has Mitch McConnell, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones crying tyranny and cause people like Frank to believe it. That's it. That's all, nothing else. Any gun legislation will come from Congress. And there's probably some incentive now, yes, to follow in the footsteps of Ronald Wilson Reagan, deity of the Republican Party, and institute an assault weapon ban. And hopefully it doesn't get watered down enough. And Republicans want to, pardon the term, die on that hill. That is their right. But at least make them stand up and say, armor-piercing rounds are something that we need for hunting with the proliferation of Kevlar-jacketed mourning doves in the state of Iowa. And how can we effectively shoot them without armor-piercing rounds? No, we need 30-round clips because, if I'm going to be a brave man and stop a school shooting, I need at least 30 rounds to put somebody down in the interest of safety. Let's have the debate. Let's have the discussion. If Republicans want to scream and fit in conspiracy theory, and they especially want to do this in public and on camera, I'm okay with that. My apologies to Aaron Sorkin. Let Republicans be Republicans and let them do it publicly and in the open where everyone can see them. I'm willing to let the chips fall where they may in that point. I think that it's the best thing Democrats have going for us these days. Republicans talking. I do like, especially the let's push. In fact, I believe the president could go even further. Something like Iowa's anti-bullying law, which again doesn't change the rules on bullying. Bullying's never been kosher or okay or accepted officially. What Iowa's bullying law mainly accomplished was schools were no longer allowed to look the other way. Even if you don't like the dweebs and the dorks, you're not allowed to ignore their complaints. And if Johnny Football Star, gets caught giving wedgies and swirlies and sticking kids into locker, even on a big game day, you aren't allowed to not deal with it. What it does is it holds our school officials accountable, which they always should have been and weren't. We should do the same thing when it comes to planning, preparation, and training for what to do in the event of one of these scenarios. And again, this is in a response, not a tactical fight back manner. Again, the government is very good at this, spending months tearing people down mentally and rebuilding them with the ability to kill another human being. It actually takes a lot of work. The military has spent hundreds of years, militaries across the globe have spent thousands of years figuring out new and inventive and more effective ways of doing this. And the folks at Time Magazine, and this is your brain on guns. A piece by Amanda Ripley. Your brain in a shootout. Guns, fear, and flawed instinct. I gave you a little bit of this last week when the NYPD actually looking into the issue, because, it's what they do, found that officers involved in gunfights hit their intended target 18% of the time. These are trained law enforcement, again, qualified with a weapon, undergo constant training. They hit the target 18% of the time. The example that the author gives is the armed man outside the Empire State Building last summer. Remember, went to go shoot his boss. Came down, found the NYPD waiting for him. They shot 9 bystanders, put 10 bullets into the perpetrator. All right. That was an above average performance. That was like blue ribbon level shooting. And something to keep in track. Again, next time some wannabe Rambo says that if only I'd been there with my gun, I could have killed a ton more people. Again, statistically speaking, you're more likely to accidentally become a mass shooter than stop a mass shooter. And there are reasons for this, many of which involve just the way our brains are wired. And in these high-stress situations, and this is what takes training, lots of training. Not going online and getting your concealed weapons permit, which you can do. I mean, literally the only time you have to see a person is fingerprints. There's no online test, and I've played Counter-Strike, I know. All right, that prepares or trains someone for this. And it starts with your amygdala. Little almond-shaped piece of your brain that when it gets pumping, literally changes the way your brain works. Everything from blood vessels constricting. In case you're wounded, you'll bleed less. You get the surge of adrenaline and hormones. Your muscles change your ability. This is how, the occasional mother can pull a car off an infant, but it also, you get tunnel vision. Your cognitive thinking abilities change. Your judgment changes. So there was a 48-year-old guy, this is a police officer, who's chasing a suspect who had fired shots at him down a 79-foot hallway. Later he was asked, how long do you think a hallway is? He said 250 feet. Said in life or death situations, human beings lose basic motor skills. And this is one undeniable fact. A responder will always be at a disadvantage because the attacker is not caught off guard. It's not a judgment call. That's not liberal propaganda or, Marxism. Right? That's reality. If I walk in with my Second Amendment rights and unload my arsenal of freedom, I know what I'm getting myself into, where a responder does not. This is why cops get a little touchy, right? When you're fooling around and fussing around when they pull you over. That's why if you're smart, you turn on your dome light, put your hands at 10 and 2, and you leave them there until the officer gets to your window and can see you. I mean, this is reality. I mean, I'm sorry, Tackleberry. Your brain did not develop, all right, with tactical situations in mind. The very basic, earliest parts of our, evolved anatomy is very simple fight or flight, not complex battle plans. It goes back to the days of, when our ancestors were running around little things on the ground in the age of the dinosaurs. It is our nature. It's how we were built. That's what your brain actually does. You can run a little faster, but your fine motor skills are going to go to crap. You'll bleed less, but your endurance goes. And your judgment is impaired. And you can't help that. You can certainly be trained to deal with the effects, but that's not anything a gun license deals with. It's certainly not anything in the state of Iowa that a concealed weapons permit deals with. I am completely unqualified to fire a gun in a crowded area. I have never pulled a trigger. I am in no way, shape, or form competent to operate a firearm. But I can go on the internet, take a test, go down, get fingerprinted, and say, give me a concealed weapons permit now. And thanks to Iowa Republicans, they have to. I don't have a criminal record. I have absolutely no competency with guns, and it would be very easy for me to get a concealed weapons permit. None of these were issues, I think, that were contemplated by our founding fathers. And this is why, even in the age of the internet, or even, just printed materials, mainstream media, we are constantly, New York Times versus Sullivan was a decision that was made in the 1960s. We are reevaluating First Amendment rights. What does the separation of church and state mean? We still haven't quite figured that one out. The full ramifications of the Establishment Clause. So why should we believe that the second is an absolute black and white? No disagreement, no discussion. These are conversations we have to have. Getting, the CDC and educational institutions, academics involved in gathering data is a good thing. And the only reason I could think of to shut it down would be if you don't want to have the conversation in the first place because you think your ideas are a loser. And time again, the NRA, when it comes to universal background checks, that means even for private gun sales, that means for gun shows nationwide. Why would the NRA oppose vehemently closing the gun show loophole? Well, it might hurt gun sellers. It might decrease the demand for guns. So that has to be stopped. Even if a majority of NRA members, and they do, support that. But here in Iowa, we have the give a schizophrenic a gun bill. That, but for one open mic accident, would be the law of the land right now. The pendulum swung too far one way and is now correcting itself, as is our way. All right, 244-0077. Email radiobradshaw@gmail.com and follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/radiobradshaw for mocking Chuck Grassley needs or just saying funny things about the Iowa GOP. They are a fun bunch of Ron Paulians. All right, when we come back, it's not just guns, where the Republicans out of gas, out of ideas, and really have nothing left but throwing a tantrum. Some of the response, including one from a guy I really like, but leaves me scratching my head. Talk about that, Republicans caving on the debt ceiling fight, and more when we return here on The Bradshaw Show, the website, www.bradshaw.com. thebradshaw.com, conveniently enough. Stop by and say hello. Be right back after this on Webcast One Live. Thanks for watching.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershot.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician.
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed rider, it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
It's time to start.
Rock concert movement number 1. The basic head bob. Ready, go.
I mean, it's a fine logo and all. All right, Bradshaw with you here. 2:09 on a beautiful afternoon. If you are an ice cube, igloo, penguin, polar bear. Although I see geese flying north today. Like, does this have something to do with like power lines and Wi-Fi and Tamarasol? I have no idea, but very weird. So, started the show telling you about the sixth shooting on or near a college campus this month. This time, Lone Star College in the suburbs of Houston. And again, this wouldn't have happened if Texas had more guns. Again, if Republicans want to stand and obstruct, let them. Because unfortunately, I think this is the rock and a hard place they have placed themselves between. The hard place is the growing rationalization that they are losing a number of groups. Women and pretty much every minority you can think of. run away from the GOP. Now, is this a permanent situation? Of course not. I'm old enough to remember Karl Rove proclaiming the permanent Republican majority, and that worked out well now, didn't it? But it's certainly an opportunity to press your advantage, because I think, again, the biggest tool Democrats have right now is Republicans talking. Tends to win elections for us. Ask Todd Akin, Sharon Engel, Christine O'Donnell, you name it. Please call out our disabled war veterans as fakers. Please call 47% of Americans takers. They appreciate that. It's a good way to win hearts and minds. Let guys like Beck and Limbaugh speak publicly, and loudly for you. That'll do you a lot of good. Republicans have dug themselves in a hole between the hard place, and that is we don't appeal to a large chunk of Americans just off the bat, and the rock, which is the brain of Republican primary voters. And what do you do when you're caught there? Again, Republicans, in moments of honesty, will tell you that for most, at least in the House of Representatives, thanks to gerrymandering, and that is the process of drawing congressional districts to maximize one's partisan advantage. If we can carve out more likely Republican districts in a state, we're probably going to win more seats. Novel concept. And in states where partisan redistricting happens, that's what you get. Again, it's not a value judgment. Democrats do it too. It's not good or bad. It just simply is. I'm a big believer in nonpartisan plans like we have here in Iowa. But most of the country still, party in charge gets to draw the lines. And again, I am not in their shoes, so I cannot speak a number of minority groups. NAACP, for example, in some cases went along with these plans because you could virtually guarantee minority representation in some of these districts. If we just draw an area around the Drake neighborhood, my guess is one of your people is going to be, and again, I cannot speak to that. I am not a member of the NAACP. And I'm sure the great benefit has been derived by the groups doing that, but at what cost? The downside, which Republicans are seeing, is that they are now far less likely to lose in a general election. Right? If we stack the deck for Republicans in a district, it takes a lot for a Democrat to win. Your threat then comes from the right. You have to survive the primary process, and this is what's currently holding the Republican Party back. I'll invoke David Frum here. He is a Bush speechwriter. He is, and I think should be known, I think he should go down in history as, a proud and loud cheerleader for some of the worst presidential decisions and policies, at least since Grant, maybe Hoover. But he has I guess, seen the light. Maybe he, hit bottom, and has come out as a critic of the current GOP. And not because, again, I think he's, completely changed his spots or anything, but you realize that the hand Republicans are playing right now overall is a loser. So the problem with Republican leaders is that they're cowards, not that they're fundamentally mistaken. The real locus of the problem is the Republican activist base and the Republican donor base. They went apocalyptic over the last 4 years, and that was exploited by a lot of people in the conservative world. I won't soon forget the lupine smile that played over the head of one major conservative institution when he told me that our donors think the apocalypse has arrived. The Republicans have been fleeced and exploited and lied to by the conservative entertainment complex. This is an offshoot of losing so badly in 06 and 08. They went thermonuclear in 2009. And it's hard to pull back from that brink. It's basically, putting Tarzan in a cubicle, putting Mad Max, managing your Wells Fargo branch. The Republicans went Lord of the Flies, and they're having a hard time reeling those folks in. If you've been pumping them full of rage and anger and conspiracy theories, it's very hard to then say, well, now hold up. Yes, this man we said was the, Antichrist socialist Hitler devil. But now we want to work with him. You think that's going to go over well? So Republicans are in a bit of a pickle. How do we win national elections and not lose the base? And the answer, I think, is simply you can't. And there is precedent for this. Look to the Democrats in the 1960s. For generations, the Democratic, constituency was, these Northeast liberals and your Southern racists. And that was a winning coalition. That was a very effective coalition. But at some point, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, and the like, we jettisoned the hillbillies, who were, not without a home for long and were quickly taken in by the Republican, party as part of the Southern strategy. Maybe it was a concession to the times they lived in. Maybe it was a calculated, creative destruction. But we had a party purge, and the Dixiecrats had to go find somewhere else to light their lowercase t's and wear their dunce caps in public. They weren't welcome here. And we let them know very loudly and very proudly. And it took a Southern Democrat, Lyndon Johnson, to do it. And he famously said, we're going to lose the South for a generation. He was understating things at that point. Republicans are going to have to go through the same mess. And it's going to be painful. Here's just one example. On the 40th anniversary of Roe versus Wade. Again, Republicans have gone, full death blossom. They're like, I think my favorite of the, dozens and dozens of anti-abortion bills. Just the House of Representatives pushed last year was the one that banned ICE. The immigration people, from using federal money to pay for abortions. Now, the fact that they have never paid for an abortion at all was irrelevant. If anything, to the sponsors of the bill, was probably a bonus. We can ban something that doesn't even exist and try to take credit for it. How great. I'm banning werewolves. I am declaring Iowa a werewolf-free zone. Iowa, congratulate me, I have saved you from the werewolves. They are Nebraska's problem now. that sort of issue. This comes from an NBC Wall Street Journal poll. All right, Wall Street Journal, not a liberal rag. 70% of Americans oppose overturning.
Do you realize
Roe
by
versus
saving
Wade.
us from werewolves, you've now just damned us to vampires?
Well, we'll have to come up with separate legislation I can take credit for then.
I mean, now we got a bunch of sparkly vampires probably on the way here.
Vampires are very popular. As someone who accidentally found themselves
You just
stuck
screwed us, Bradshaw.
in a Borders book during when Twilight was brand new and the fad was going on, I could probably take big credit, increase my male popularity a great
I
deal
just can't
by banning
believe
vampires.
now we have sparkly vampires coming everywhere. It's all your fault.
The chicks dig it. Next thing you know, I'm going to start mandating how many shades of gray there actually are.
Ooh. You know, I like to stick to the traditional 6 or 7.
I'm no more than 3.
I'm with you there. 3 shades of gray is all we need.
I believe so. But today's the 40th anniversary of versus Wade. 70% of Americans oppose overturning the law. Now, anti-choicers really like to trumpet the fact that, they say a majority of Americans are anti-abortion. You know what? They're absolutely right. They never ask the follow-up, should it be banned? And they're even less likely to ask the follow-up, what should the punishment for it be? 70% oppose overturning the decision. They realize, even if I personally don't like it, I'm not going to make that choice for someone else. 31% feel it should be legal in all cases. 23% in most cases. Only 9% of Americans believe in a Todd Aiken, Paul Ryan, illegal under any circumstance. I'd love to know what percentage of that 9% votes in Republican primaries. Because if you're that hardcore of a single issue voter, if you're that hardcore on an issue, you're probably involved. So what, 60% of people vote even lower on a lower level? A third of those, you talk about 20% now are actually, registered Republicans. Less than half of those will vote in a primary. Yeah, you're getting down to about that 9%. This is the hard place Republicans find themselves in. They have a base that they have inflamed for 30 years, and now they're paying the cost. And it's not like they can just do a quick change. The gay marriage fight. I mean, that is a wedge issue that has gone completely round at this point. Majority support. And I forgot where it was. But there was talk, yesterday we mentioned the president mentioning Seneca Falls, Selma, and Stonewall. These civil rights battles. Seneca Falls for women's suffrage, Selma for equal, rights for African Americans, and Stonewall, the beginning of the gay rights movement. And it's funny how, the intellectual descendants of the folks who fought the first two now claim them as their own, but will still fight the third. So we're about 30 years away from Republicans saying, no, actually, Republicans were the real fighters for gay rights. Just wait. It will happen, and it will happen in your lifetime as long as you lay off the trans fats. Numbers that I wasn't even aware of. It took until the early 1990s. Ponder this for a second. The civil rights, movement, kicked off in the 50s. I mean, really hit its stride in the mid-60s. It wasn't until the early to mid-90s that a majority of Americans supported interracial marriage. Something we take as absolutely commonplace today. Like, only, the most caricature of old racist, right? would disapprove, or I guess a Mississippian. But it wasn't until the mid-90s that reached a majority of support in this country. And now, again, it's almost an absurd thought to go to your water cooler, say, you know what? I really hate that race mixing. Hey, where's everyone going? Where's everyone walking away? HR wants me to stop by? Okay. To think how fast same-sex marriage has been accepted by the people, I mean, it really is amazing. But I had no idea that opposition to interracial marriage lasted that long. Now I understand all the hubbub about Seal and Heidi Klum. Now it all makes sense. All right, real quick before I got to scoot. I like Craig Robinson. He's the owner, writer, proprietor of the Iowa Republican. I think he's a good dude. We have always got along. Well, I disagreed with him on a great many things. He at least spent enough time outside the echo chamber. You could actually have a conversation with him, like without it devolving into socialism, Marxism. It wasn't a Glenn Beck monologue, which is why I found his piece today really confusing. I put it on my my Twitter feed under whitemaleprivilege.html. And it's concerning the president's inaugural address. And what America is President Obama leading? It's not the one I know. In fact, it makes me wonder if I'm living in the same country that President Obama is presiding over. And he breaks out a couple of the quotes. For our journey is not complete until our wives, our mothers, and daughters can earn a living equal to their efforts. The glass ceiling. Women earning 72 cents on the dollar compared to a man in the same job. And again, these aren't opinions; these are statistics. So maybe it's because I live in the middle of America. I have never had a woman come up to me and complain they are not given a fair shake in America. My mom's success is not defined by the size of her paycheck or the type of car she drives. She measures her success through her family. In that regard, my mother would claim she's been extremely successful. That's not at all what the president was talking about, but okay. That maybe I'm lucky, but the woman I met in college and went on to marry is smarter than I am, more educated than I am, and much more better looking than I am. She makes more money than I do, and deservingly so. I'm not saying that there are not people in this country who are being held back for one reason or another, but I think at a point in the nation where one's gender no longer is a barrier to their success. And it doesn't happen to me, and my wife makes more than I do, so problem solved. Ann Coulter makes more money than I do, so there's no sexism in America. Hooray! I find it odd as much as President Obama hyped up the Lilly Ledbetter Fay Pair Act of 2009 in his re-election campaign. His second inaugural address indicates he believes that women in America are still not treated equally. Judging by the vastly more women who voted for Obama than Mitt Romney, I think American women would disagree with you there, Craig. Yeah, at some point, again, it's not a weakness or a handicap to admit, you know what? As a middle-class white male in America, I have privilege. I will never be pulled over for driving through Glen Oaks after sunset. Probably not going to happen to me. I'm not going to be stopped and frisked. There's nothing wrong with pointing that out. I think there is something wrong with pointing out when other people don't have that same ability and get a little miffed about it. I don't think it's necessarily up for us to tell one. You're equal now. Congratulations. Here's your 72 cents. Our journey is not complete, from the president, till our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law. For if we are truly created equal, then surely the love we commit to one another must be equal as well. He says he doesn't want to get into a gay marriage debate. What more ancient value is there besides the institution of marriage? I would go human sacrifice, but if you're talking strictly Judeo-Christian, I am a absolute biblical traditional marriage person. Marriage is between one man is winning woman as he can afford, and if he has concubines, that's cool too. Again, we have constantly redefined marriage in society. For example, how many cows or goats were exchanged before your wedding or after? Dowries, anyone? If you want to look to the Bible as your inspiration on this, notice how things like, deflowering a woman are under property crimes. So to argue we redefine marriage, it's something every society has done. Talks about gun care. Go read the piece. It's on my Twitter feed. Like I said, whitemaleprivilege.html. I don't know. I'm out of time, but this was my takeaway. He feels alienated. He feels disconnected from what the president is talking about. Now, part of that I can understand is a president from another party is being inaugurated. Yes, you're probably going to work through your 5 stages of grief very quickly. I think, yes, it does show a disconnect between, again, things Republicans are told that are important versus the rest of America. And maybe the biggest issue here, I cannot help in the era, again, of Glenn Beck and Fox News alerts and Black Panther, socialism, Kenyan anti-colonialism, have Republicans just been inundated finally? We finally reached the point where conservatives, Republicans, whatever they're calling themselves this hour, have been so inundated and so acclimated to fake, scandals, made-up problems, the outrage of the day, that they are, incapable of seeing actual problems around them. Certainly explain in part why at least Republicans on the state and national level are completely incapable of dealing with issues on a legislative way. But have they dealt with, again, so many just manufactured outrages and fake scandals and fake problems that there isn't room. They're out of memory to deal with actual problems that don't particularly affect them. Maybe it's just a side effect of FYIGM at work. I don't know. Craig Robinson is a good dude, and I was surprised by this piece. Go read it yourself and let me know what you think. Email me, radiobradshaw@gmail.com. Catch me online, twitter.com/radiobradshaw, and we'll reconvene tomorrow. Where hopefully it'll be a little warmer. Again, don't want to put anyone's eyes out here on Webcast One Live. Thank you for watching. I will see you then.